Back from New York. It's
Thursday afternoon.
yeah. My week is all jacked up. It is.
I know. I know.
It feels like it feels like January 3rd, and
It really does. Well, if somehow there could be like 2 or 3 New Year's Eves in a row,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just hit on a couple high notes. This is one that I think is still the funniest of all the crap
Yeah.
that's been going on with Apple this week. They finally sort of kind of said, hey, maybe these keyboards are a big giant piece of crap and we can't fix them.
Listen, I give Apple credit for creating a keyboard that cannot move and yet can still get dust under it. You know? I like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Or crumbs or whatever gets in there.
Yeah, and then they've got a new credit card, which I haven't figured out why anyone would actually pick it up yet. You would have to be.
So
I think it's honestly going to be a calling card for the most loyal fans.
yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
If you are so thoroughly associated with this brand that you need this thing and you need this to be part of your life, you're going to want this, because honestly, when it comes to cash back and points or whatever you want, it's not good at all. No fee credit cards are common. There are way better deals than this out in the world. I think what they're doing in the software, without having used it, right, because it's not out yet, but I like the idea of it. I think one of the things they can offer some of the younger fans is some sound financial advice. Do something along the lines of what they're doing in health to finances.
Sure.
Totally cool. There's no reason they couldn't do that with other credit cards. In fact, I expect over time they will.
I would hope so. I mean, that would be a very sticky thing that would get you in there. Be like, oh, look, I can see I walked 12,000 steps today. I spent $194 of gas last month, and it's all within iOS.
You know, you were asking, I remember on Monday, you kind of asked rhetorically, you know, what would I replace this for? Like, what would I get rid of? And actually, the answer is you don't replace anything with it. You get it in addition to other stuff. You know, one of the things we do, for example, like when we went to New York for the trip, I stayed at it wasn't a Hilton, but it was a Hilton-owned lesser Hilton.
Yep.
And I used my Hilton credit card for that, right? Because the points are more when you spend them at Hilton. So that trip will be, you know, from the points I get or whatever it is, it's more valuable to do it that way. You know, when we go to Costco, well, you pretty much have to use a Costco card. But, you know, we do that kind of a thing. If I was going to stay at a Marriott, I'd use my Marriott card or whatever. You know, Apple products are expensive. I mean, 3x points on Apple hardware, whatever, you may end up with enough cash back or however they work it that you could buy like a case for your iPhone or something. And it's funny. I actually do have you know, when you sign up for to do financing through the Apple site, you get a Barclay card that has 0 interest on Apple purchases. I think for 1 year, I think is the time frame. And then you get points, right? And so I've actually done that. So because I bought the MacBook Air, I bought an iPhone X 10R, whatever it is. I had some amount of credit. I don't remember what it was, but I needed a case. And I got a case, you know, like it was basically free. So, you know, either give you an Apple gift card or whatever. So, you know, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. But you're right. Yeah. It's not. If you know anything about credit cards, it's not a very. Greatest thing. Actually not a very good one.
Right.
Yeah. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's nothing special.
If you are looking for a new credit card, I recommend you check out it's the Points Guy, I think is who it is.
Yes.
He does a very good breakdown of, because it's not a go buy this card.
No, it depends on what you want out of life. Right. You know, my wife and I care about travel, so there's some Chase cards that are really good. The American Express cards are good.
Yep.
Airline loyalty cards are good if you're going to be flying on the same airline a lot. You know, the same thing. Yeah. So if you're going to fly on Delta, you have a Delta card, you pay for that. You bring the Delta card when you go with you. You get priority boarding or whatever it is. Like there are advantages. You gotta do a little research, but there is this is in no way stands out as anything special, unfortunately, in the world of credit cards. Yeah.
Yep. The other thing too is obviously there's Apple News, which to me is not all that exciting really in any capacity. The thing that I'm going to be watching for on all of this is the publishers, because the publishers will tell you exactly how well this is doing. Apple's going to probably hide it under something or whatever. But if you start to see publishers either falling out because they're not making money, or if you see them diving in with more of them, that means there's money to be made. But
there's no money to be made. I think this is inconsequential. The problem is the problem is many things. So the publishing market has collapsed, right? And so if you publish a magazine or a newspaper or whatever, you're right on the edge of insolvency. This is nothing there. And so you can do this right now. You can go to Kindle. You can subscribe to Car and Driver. You can subscribe to Rolling Stone. You can subscribe whatever it is you like. These subscriptions cost nothing. Nothing. I just subscribed to Wired. I should look it up. I don't remember what the deal was. I believe I got Wired for $10 for the entire year. Mm-hmm. Digital or digital plus print. I chose digital because I don't want paper. But some people might. That's cool. Now, Car and Driver, I think, is $10 a year. The only thing I pay for that's kind of more than that, that's a magazine, is Consumer Reports, which I don't remember the exact price of that, but you could understand why that would be valuable. If you kind of add up some number of digital subscriptions, and you can arrive at a thing that is more than $10 a month times 12 for a year, which is $120. You read a lot of magazines, for one thing. At that point, maybe Apple News Plus makes some sense. Who are those people? The people who read a lot of magazines are old people who read paper magazines. Young people do not read, period. They don't read magazine length articles about anything. Like, what's the market for this?
Yep.
I'm sorry to keep going, but the other thing is, they show these beautiful interactive things, waterfall moving around, blah, blah, blah. Aside from the fact that that's crap when you read a magazine, that's not what you want. That's only some of them. Most of them are just PDFs. You just flip it through a PDF. And that means that the text is formatted however they did it. Could be tiny. It means you're going to do the thing where you kind of zoom in and you move around on the page and you're doing this, On the Kindle, at least, not always, but most publications, there's a reading mode where it's just text, I have to say, I find that to be a lot more valuable than beautiful layout and animated graphics and blah, blah. I'm reading here. I'm not trying to play a video game, I think this service is going to be inconsequential. I'm using it, by the way. I am using it.
Then the other one, which isn't coming until, there's two of them that are coming later this year. There's Apple Arcade, which is, if you're, again, I struggle with this one a little bit.
Is what?
Is, I guess, great if you find yourself spending a lot of money on mobile games. If that's something that you see yourself doing, then that might make some sense. I personally have one game on my phone, and I think it's the Mario one that I downloaded, I think, while we were on this show.
Like a year and a half ago or something.
Yeah, and that is the only game on my phone. Yeah. And then the TV service, which they didn't really even talk about. They just showed some really famous people up on stage and said, hey, this is coming. And then that's it.
I found the gaming thing, Arcade, to be really vague, like beyond vague. It's not clear how much it's going to cost, where you're going to be able to get it, what the games are, how the service works. Two things about this that I've discovered since the event. One is it's not just iOS. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's macOS and tvOS too. That tells me that in June at WWDC, there's going to be an announcement about what that means.
Yeah.
And I think what it might mean is a new type of universal app bundle where you'll be able to target a game to those platforms from one project. That'd be kind of interesting.
I wonder if we've ever heard that before.
Yeah, I did use the word universal for a reason. And then, although Apple already uses the term universal too, but which I think they use it for iOS, for iPad and iPhone, but apps, you don't want a single bundle, whatever. The other thing, what is the other thing, Paul? I said there were two things. Yes. So if you think about the way the iOS App Store has kind of evolved over time, like one of the original benefits to the developer was you have a chance to be shown off and you could become famous. And there are examples of these apps and games that, especially in the early days, where they just kind of went off gangbusters. The dark side to the success of the store, though, is if you're an independent developer or EA, it doesn't matter, and you want to get your app in there and get it recognized and so forth, it's really hard today.
Yep.
Because there are billions and billions of apps. You're competing with all kinds of stuff. What are you going to do? This is almost a chance, I think, for them to start that thing over again, right? So now that what they're selling is, look, we have a subscription service now. This is going to be exclusive. There aren't going to be a billion games in there. There are going to be 100. And you have a chance to actually get in front of people's eyeballs. I think that might literally be the short-term selling point for this service.
It could be.
That's messed up.
It is messed up, but I mean that's not a bad thing. Be like, look, now you're one of 100 instead of one of a billion.
Maybe, or whatever the number is. Yeah, that's my theory. I'm just wondering because honestly, the thing is so vague. You have to kind of just guess, like, what is the selling point here? I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, but Apple Card, look, I think that's going to do well. That will sustain itself. It's fine. It doesn't matter how many.
Well, I don't think there's any overhead to that either.
Exactly.
I mean, it's through Goldman Sachs. It's printing a credit card. They basically make money when you forget to make a payment, and that's it.
Yep, it's fine. I think that Apple TV Plus, no matter what it is, or Apple TV channels, or whatever we're calling this thing, this will be fine. I think it will do well. We don't know anything about it, but it's going to be fine. It's going to be a lot like Apple Music, right? It's never going to be number one of anything, but it might be number two, and it might be number five, whatever. But I think that's of the stuff that they announced, and we already knew this was coming. I think that's the one that kind of makes the most sense because it fits so neatly into the way they do things and the established norms. And I think there's they're doing some smart things around bringing the Apple TV app to different platforms. You're going to be able to get this thing on a TV. Like I might be able to stop. I might not have to keep an Apple TV in the house after this. You have no idea how wonderful that is. Be able to access that thing from a Roku with a real remote. Not that stupid little flat thing that you lose between the cushions. I can't wait for this. Just for that, it's going to be worth it. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. We're talking about, was it Thursday? We haven't done a show since last week. So this happened, Monday? We've had a chance to kind of digest it. It is striking to me how little they said.
Yeah.
2 hours on stage. And
how little actually, because Apple, to their credit, at least in the last couple of years, has typically said, here's a product, you can go buy it tomorrow. Here's a product, it's next week or what. None of this stuff, except really the news, is concrete or anything else, which makes you wonder why it was announced so far in advance.
And even News Plus it is available now, U.S. and Canada only, right? And so the stuff that's coming out to 100 or more countries or whatever is all happening in the fall, and is really big, and we don't know what the pricing is. It's really. It's like, okay. I mean, I don't know. Do you think they'll ever do an all-up bundle, right? This thing we talk about a lot on the Microsoft side, yeah.
I bet they absolutely
all of Apple, one price,
Yep, or they'll start bundling it with an iPhone, right? You go buy an iPhone.
Yeah. And it becomes part of the monthly payment.
Yep. They wrap it in there with Apple Care or something like that for an extra, $150. You get music, media, and whatever else. I absolutely
They could make a killing doing that. So
I bet they could call it Apple 365.
Oh, jeez. Oh. And then Tim Cook could change his name on Twitter to be Tim Apple 365.
Yeah, it would be great.
That's funny. I hope they don't do that.
I bet they do. There's going to be an Apple bundle of.
I wonder. It seems like an obvious idea. All you got to do, you're like, look, I might not use most of this or some of this or whatever. It's like, okay, but it's only half the price of the whole thing. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, they could do some deals where it makes sense.
Yep. And then the other big thing that's happened since we've been back last, no big surprise here. Edgium is all out in the wild. Multiple builds are now out. I'm actually using it right now. I've been using it for a while, and it's
I've actually replaced Chrome with it. It works well. I mean, the one thing I learned, and I did this again when I got home on the computer I'm using here at home, is like you got to get Chrome off your taskbar because I'm so used to.
Yep.
It's like a muscle thing. Like I got to browse the web. It's like no, the browser's already running. You're fine, and it's got a little bit of an Edge flavor to it. Right-click menus. You can see those Edge type icons are in there. A little bit of Microsoft Service integration. Bing is the default engine, but you can change it to Google. Microsoft Smart Screen is the default security for downloads, which is great. You want that. Microsoft Sync, obviously, for the Microsoft account sync for all the settings and bookmarks and passwords and all that stuff. It's good.
I mean, for pre-release leak, it's pretty well robust, which means that as it progresses, obviously, it's going to get better. And I bet we do start to see more of that Microsoft design language flow through here. I don't know exactly when, but I definitely think it will. There
are some flags for that in what do you call it? Edge, :/flags, which is the Microsoft version of the Chrome thing. There are flags in there for Fluent and other UI stuff, and I'm trying to remember there's a dark mode thing you can enable.
Yep.
It's nice. You can use Google Chrome extensions. Works great. I will say, as of today, I have finally run into one thing that does not work that works fine in Chrome, which is when I do the What the Tech podcast with Andrew. We use a service called vMix
call. Or vMix call. Yeah.
vMix call. The screen comes up. It gives you an error. Says it can't connect with over the back and things. I've configured it to use the right multimedia devices. It doesn't work. So I had to go back to Chrome for that call. But that's it. And that's kind of a esoteric, weird thing that most people would never run into. So it seems like it's pretty sharp.
I will tell you that if you are trying to install 1Password, do not install 1Password extension. What you want to install is what's called 1Password X.
Okay.
Which is, it's by 1Password, but 1Password X is actually the password manager replacement that works on Chrome. And it also works on Edgeium. And as soon as I did that, I mean, it's just like...
Oh, it's like an app, isn't it? Like a separate app?
Kind of, but I mean, it legitimately replaces the password manager in Edgeium.
Yeah. That's right.
So it works great. No problems and makes life easy.
Yeah, honestly, they had been really quiet about this, or are still really quiet about it. A little nervous something was wrong. Mm-hmm. And so when this thing leaked, I've been dying to try it, like a lot of people, and I'm surprised by how good it is. I had expected something rougher, frankly, and it's good.
As did I. But there's no rough edges on Edge.
I'm tired, so I'm going to accept that one.
Yep.
But yeah.
Anything else for today, Mr. Paul?
I took 3 naps yesterday, Brad. 3. I might take one today.
Wow.
What else you got? Anything going on?
I actually wrote up. It is nearly done. It'll probably publish tomorrow. I started writing this on the plane ride home. What I've done is I've taken Amazon, Apple, Nintendo, Microsoft, Google, and Sony. Wow. And I created categories called like cloud technology, fan base, IP, hardware, and services, and kind of rank them, like what's their strength and what's their weaknesses and all that stuff. I didn't intend it to be this long, but it's about 3,000 words.
Wow. Did you actually assign letter grades?
Yeah, I did. Now, I know this is where people are going to be like, oh my God, Apple should have been a C and you gave it a B. Like it's supposed to be more of a rough comparison because it's not going to be perfect. But
no, I think this is a good idea because what I'd like to see is what the totals look like.
Yeah, well, there is no totals.
But you could do that. You could,
Well, the challenge is like some of the holes are bigger, right? Because Google on the surface looks really good until you realize they have 0 games. So that really kind of knocks them down. It's kind of hard to average weight them, but the whole reason I did this was just to have like a mind map of like, okay, here's the players, here's what they're good at, here's what they're not good at, this is what they have to improve to make sure that for next generation gaming they actually compete. And so
I was kind of blown away by the Google thing on the day of, and then a little time go by and your mind kind of clears itself and you're like, wait a minute. They don't have any games.
Yeah, and they don't really have a fan base either, right? They don't have 64 million people using Xbox Live going, I am buying the next Xbox. They have billions of people using Android, but those people don't care about online game streaming. So
and I think that's going to be a problem for Apple as well. I think a lot of the people who play games on Apple devices do not consider themselves to be gamers and do not associate Apple at all with gaming.
Yep, I agree.
And I think Google runs into that problem as well. Xbox or Microsoft has a great gaming brand, and Xbox, Sony obviously does, and Nintendo is, golden. I mean, it's just games.
Yep. So I need to polish that up and finish it up, and that'll hopefully go live maybe tomorrow. So
cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Other cool things happening tomorrow, folks, are at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Almost said Eastern Climb. Eastern time, you can find this podcast live where Paul and I will talk about things that hopefully happen between now and then. Have yourselves a wonderful Thursday.